Hello, this is General of the Armies Vincent Diaz Jr. This is a communique in regards to the war in the Ukraine. It is addressed to Vladimir Putin. It needs to have the attention of the 7-star general from Russia, who is my direct officer in charge, my commander. I'm going to work over some stuff that works up the orders I'm given to try to get orders given to make stuff right for me in some specific context, what's gone wrong for me. With the topic of a plea in a bag to have some stuff in society working right, like products that aren't. Maybe they can be brought back. I see some stuff is getting shored back into better shape, like industry standard shape in the war, or at least it's taking a regression towards being industry standard stuff, like the steps that were taken to make it just trash now. And with the main talk going to be about the taking of Kiev. Okay, so I think I'm just going to try to let it out. I haven't pulled it all together into some of the perfect form of some of my perfect phrases and commands and such. Like, sometimes they're not perfect orders, but they are perfect commands to get stuff going. So let's see, I'll report back. I saw something again in the news. There's something in the news this morning, like it was something I was sort of requesting and commanding, ordering be done, or just elaborating on. Once this happens, that has to happen. It's what the book says. It's nice to see that keeps going down, like with Russia at the helm of this sort of thing. I say what's supposed to happen happens, and it happens in that nice collective way where I get credit and don't. Like, it's just sort of get the credit that it goes down my way. If there are any choices, it's good enough for me. Whereas usually the best I can do with the Westerners or the USA in charge is just nowhere near this. It's sort of like I've logged on to Facebook and I'm yelling at the camera with some automation features. It can get through to me and I can get some stuff done with automation. I think that's my point. No. Sometimes I can push the buttons on the automation of the other people and have the automation do good work. I'm just not used to seeing the main people in charge do good work like this. All right, I was just going to sort of crack loose and talk about my training on taking a capital city or whatever. So I was running myself through some the training, and my mind's sort of in city-state mode, because I live in a city-state that's the capital city, that's a capital state, that's the capital of the country. And that place is the capital of the country, but I'm pretty sure, that's not a city-state. I forget we have that short list of city-states we're supposed to have memorized. Okay. So I was thinking of the old days. What made me think this would be a good communique, and I know I sort of need to get on topic with this talk about the preparations to take over or attack Kiev or whatever. And the way the fake news or the media, the journalists are all playing dumb idiots. They don't know what's happening with what's been going on, and say it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, they're going here to go there, or they're doing this to do that. And this many of these are here doing that or those. I sort of like the way we used to sort of have a sort of classical-like combat system that wasn't so classical in most of the ways, but sometimes we could make announcements. It was when we started going down this road of having all these special rules and agreements that were supposed to be above the bar because we had so much warfare. And I guess I'm looking for something like a siege statement or a besieging statement from Russia on what they're going to do to Ukraine's capital city. I've been thinking about the way things have been going down, and I haven't really seen the data. I don't really know the territory and most of the conditions, but on these general idiots terms that are sort of still higher level terms, we have these humanitarian corridors that are supposed to be the travel paths in and out, and I wanted to sort of try to apply all these rule sets. Oh yeah, this good news I heard on the radio that Russia was having a turn at the UN or something like that, one of those groups, and they were trying to set up their humanitarian aid package or something. I forget what it was. They were trying to talk about ceasefire, and it went bad, so they tried to get to the humanitarian aid package they were putting together. Or they couldn't get their humanitarian aid package together, and so they talked about their war conditions, ceasefire, peace treaty or whatever. Anyway, back to the besiegement. And I'm working on some sort of logic. I'm not sure. I don't know that we've ever done it. I think the last time we wanted to do this, we were using these corridors to move our tanks and heavy artillery. It sort of ended up that our convoys had to be on the humanitarian routes. Different situation, like we were a third party military involved in the situation, not the home nation or the direct in conflict or something. I'd like to see traffic driven. I'd like to see just like time set. I'd sort of like to see these battles fought in ways that flush to these routes. I'd like to see people just sort of like ordered on the routes before the violence occurs. And I guess I know I heard that like some flee commands were given. Like people wouldn't clear out of zones that needed to be destroyed. I'd like to sort of see those commands get to be a little bit more specific. Like you could tell them where the hell to go, like get the hell out of the country and go to this receiving station of refugees or something, give them their humanitarian routes and just tell them to march or something. Next, I was thinking over, I think these are the past times this has happened. It's not really strong in my mind, but I think sometimes we say things like, at this point in time or after this much time of the attempted preparation for a siege, like trying to clear the zone or get word through or get the warning out so that the warning's up by the time we get to them, with them knowing the statements, like the siege statements or the besieging statements go out where we just say, we're willing to start our siege strikes and our destruction before we get there with this many people there. We're willing to accept this many civilian casualties and fatalities. And then we sort of talk about the numbers of like what's there. We're willing to accept 10,000 civilian casualties and 1,000 civilian fatalities, and there's only supposed to be 700 people in the whole zone. And so today, as I was preparing to talk, I sort of had my let's blow stuff up button just get pressed a little bit, like I'm gonna have to like give out some targets. Every hospital needs to be downed. Those hospitals need to be destroyed. Like how do you control that place? How do you actually take it over? Or how do you get those people out? Like maybe you selectively start destroying stuff in the corridors and stuff. All the hospitals got to get put down, and the whole infrastructure of the police, like all the jails and prisons, have to get destroyed. You can't have any medical facilities that have incarceratory features left. And when I'm mad, I start thinking like the list of businesses. It's downgraded enough, but a lot of businesses might have incarceratory features too that makes them in need of destruction. Next is the thought that basically the whole government infrastructure of your government you're warring at needs to be put down, and you should really destroy all their buildings, but definitely all their court system, all their court buildings and stuff should be destroyed. Sometimes I'm just mad at the general features of the way people behave or what they're dressed with. They're like, there's just like some artifacts they're using, like any place there's handcuffs should be completely destroyed, and anybody that uses them should be killed. But sometimes I try to control that. I just have so much of that swirling around me. But my serious point is like all the security companies need to be destroyed, and all their buildings and support facilities and stuff need to be destroyed. I said the whole government, and like I'm ranking things up. Before you get to the courthouses, you really need to destroy all the emergency services. Like when you go for that round trying to destroy all the incarceratories, you need to destroy all the emergency services stuff, the infrastructure and support structure and stuff. Next is like I'm starting to talk it up, like let's just level the place and destroy everything, but I'm pretty sure there's some assets there that Russia wants to reclaim. There's facility level pieces of buildings and stuff. Like in my stories, I'm calling them my constellation of a god boss's body pieces, but it's like there's the stolen infrastructure stuff from the communists, or these old World War and World War II stories. That stuff's like embedded in everything. Like nearly none of their stuff works without your stuff embedded in it. So there's all that stuff to recover. It's also your stuff isn't supposed to totally get destroyed, but you're supposed to take a different path of destruction when you plan on recovering. So let me queue up just like destroying some stuff to get some of your stuff back, because it's sort of like packed in it. It's like they just packed their concrete crap shelter style all over it, and your battery blocks are at the bottom powering it or something. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a lot of war thoughts. Now I just sort of wanted to beg, like the war can make things better instead of worse. I sort of have my war jokes. Like I've been thinking about just sort of like ending up in a war zone, like I'm talking about. Like maybe I can go someplace in this Russia situation fairly in an honorable way for Russia, being a sort of Russian, but so much older than Russia. Most people might not recognize me as Russian. I'm just sort of on the Russian mission, never having been able to visit Russia or be at Russia, but just basically only being identifiable over my communist or communistic ways as Russian, and with my alignment over my higher level military identification as a Russian. Like, I'm U.S. military, the best way I can still be saying this, but that U.S. usually doesn't turn into USA, it turns into something more like USS or USSR. When it sounds more, when we go through the history of it trying to be a country. Here's a segue. I'm working up on my map talk. It's probably about time to start having map fights. And sometimes you can go into the peace treaty and negotiation talks with sort of this stuff all in the context already, and just sort of like plunk down a map and say we just sort of agree to the map and this can be over. It usually doesn't go well. Alright, so the products I want to beg for, like I'm in some smashed down place. I don't know if they have some place so smashed down there's nothing. I know they said there's like no food and water here or there or something. Like in my situation, I'm just sort of down by the creek flow where it's sort of the delta to the river, and it's just like this pure, clear, constantly running water. I got plenty of water. I don't know what I'm going to do for food. I'm supposed to be military. I got MREs? I don't know. Eat berries. Anyway, at least I have some water. Usually I think I'm just like eating a little piece of hemp. Like I get into the plan, like I got smashed down in that zone, like I had a terrible enemy, and now everything's just smashed. I'm usually happy if I have my hemp pack. I got my hemp belt pack. It's pounds of hemp. Might have it up towards 2 pounds of hemp. Just sort of eat those buds as fast as anyone possibly can without doing much to them. Last forever. Take it like a year to eat that much. You'll feel decent. Like you won't feel like you're gonna die or something from starvation. Anyway, the products I'm begging for are these USB charging products, and there's sort of like a system around. Like they have these power banks and battery banks, sort of like master power systems. It's sort of like a portable solar system they have you can set up. But like my bag right now is these power banks, like these phone power banks. They build them with the solar chargers right on them. They're this beautiful thing at this reasonable price. Like it's one little square that makes you feel like you could fill a whole roof with them. And their output numbers and their performance numbers are such that they're a viable option should you be so hard up or in need of using only them to putting up solar arrays. It's just none of them work. None of mine will work. Nothing will actually charge. I can't charge in any way except at AC outlets or with something connected directly to them. So I'm begging for these charging products to work. We have all these hand crank products. Maybe I can talk about some of these things people like my god boss at 7-Star General can get ahead of. I actually found one of these power banks, these little battery packs to charge the phone with the crank right on it. I've seen 2 of them now. They're really hard to find. The one I want, or really wanted, is out of stock. The other ones are selling in the thousands. I think they said they're out of stock too. But it's like an isolated hand crank powered device. Like it's a hand crank powered device with one function only for the hand crank to do. And in this case, it's a USB power bank, battery backup thing, power bank. So I'm begging for this hand crank charging equipment to work too. I got myself a weather radio with a hand crank. It just works so bad. I know how much power I should be able to make with that hand crank, and things just aren't going right. It's the worst slow charge. I think, for example, like this one's changed a little bit, but for example, like I can turn the one crank in a way that's like 10 times the amount of energy of turning the one crank in a way that's an acceptable amount for the charge system of it. And these things need to, if I turn that crank 1,000 times in the time other people are turning the crank 100 times, I should make 10 times the energy. When there's just like these stupid ass rule books, I finally cursed. I'm sorry. There's these stupid rule books and these like ooga boogas, these Luddite inbred freaking monsters that aren't even humans anymore. They're Morlocks or something. They just like read the rule books, like no matter what, that's how it works, and then they tell a bunch of other stupid stuff with the rules. Like it takes 15 minutes to crank every time, and if you crank it 20,000 times when all it needed was 500, it doesn't matter. And here's finally some of my specifications of how I've been trying to find this thing out. Like you can go off grid, like make your trips back and forth and just keep picking up this battery equipment. Like in my wrecked up way of life, I have to just keep buying this stuff over and over, because when it's malfunctional, I have to throw it away. Like I just can't use it on. Like maybe it's meeting some minimum usefulness now on my system. Like every time I have the resources to replace, I have to get rid of it, because it's just sort of like having the enemy's programming right there at all times to spread through your stuff. But my specification, that was the big one, was to cook. I've been thinking about a heater, but I've been doing better and better with all my thermal heater gear. Now that I got the new style U.S. military blankets from Walmart, they're not exactly calling them U.S. military blankets in their packing, but they're lighting up my thermal suit so it goes hot, even though it's not reflective or captured heat. It's some sort of chemical reaction with my skin or something. It's real nice. I'm having problems with the wind sort of blowing out the function, but this is just a matter of how much stuff I'm having to pull together, because I have the windproofing and wind stop systems. So I tried to work up some measures. I thought it might be you're either going to cook or you're going to heat, but I mean, the numbers that are out there on this equipment are such that you could set up these arrays and you could run a heater, like to have a safety shelter heat tent with, like a pack you might expect somebody to be able to run this system with into this situation. And I was trying to have a bit nicer life, like I could get on the electric powered cooking systems and have maybe I was going to have one of these master power cell battery bank things, but then I could be like cooking in a instant pot basically wherever I am with this just having to lug it around, and like the pot's too big, but I'm just bagging for these products to work because it's too much in the life where housing and shelter and resources aren't guaranteed, to ask somebody to make it back on the grid or to these specific grid points when there's an abundance of equipment that's supposed to handle the situation for specific purposes, like just keeping a phone charged or these general USB devices that go with it. While these access points are turning into traps and ambush points and stuff. Or just points of vandalism, like you get there and somebody's destroyed what you need to use, like happened to me last night at the McDonald's, where I couldn't charge because somebody's wrecked all the outlets. Oh yeah, here's one more thing, just in the context of everything. With the beauty of how now we have these power bank battery pack things with the cranks right on them, we are at the step where it's completely feasible to start putting hand cranks on phones. With the reality of the situation and the beauty of the technology to these people that are such a problem, they don't deserve it, and they're probably the reason this stuff doesn't work anyway. But anyway, we really need these phones with like solar panels on their backs, like the charging equipment looks, and then people won't have to do the work so much, and they might not even notice too much when their battery life expands so far, because at any time they got it like set down with the solar charger up, it's charging. It could do so well. Help. And let's see, orders. I don't know. I forget. I'm ordering that last order. I thought we might have passed around about. I had a chance to like order something about 2 quarters, but I can do that higher stuff. Like usually when some guys start ordering up this higher level stuff, you last did, they order themselves into the quarters, right? Order. Help.